Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Fuuton Mini. This is a 3-inch brushless racer and it's a very similar product to the X140 Pro, but there are some differences. First of all, this one is a lot lighter. It weighs 138 grams against the 160 or 70 grams with the full-size antenna on here of this one. So yeah, that's a reason why this one's lighter. It has got what looks like a mini pagoda antenna, and that's connected directly to the VTX using a micro UFL. And you can see here that the stack is the same, but yeah, I think we've lost a little bit of weight there, but also with the motors as well. So they are a SkyStars branded motor, and they are a 1306 3100 kV, so much smaller than this guy. So this guy is a 1408 3800 kV, so higher RPMs, wider and taller stator. This one clocked 100 mile per hour with these props on, although it didn't come with these props on. And interestingly, at the making of this video, the X140 Pro is actually cheaper than this guy, but it's really difficult to comment on the prices. I think there's a deal on this one at the moment, but for me, with this having slightly lower spec motors, I think this one should be a little bit cheaper, but yeah, look out for that. So yeah, the stack is the same, and it's a decent stack. So we actually have 32-bit ESCs. They are a 25 amp with a 30 amp peak, so there's going to be no problems with the amp draw there. Then we've got a F4 flight controller with Betaflight on-screen display. It was completely set up. In fact, the only thing that I needed to change was my channel map for my Tyrannus, and I've moved the on-screen display around a bit, but it's got custom PIDs in there, and it had everything set up for the VTX. So yes, this VTX is a switching VTX, and it uses the tramp protocol, and that was already set up in the UART. And this is the bind and fly version, so it's come with an XM Plus receiver as well, so pretty decent package, I think. Yeah, the VTX goes up to 200 milliwatt, and we also have got the antennas coming out of the back. Now, I've added this myself, but they do provide you with some cable ties in the package, which is quite nice. We've also got the XM Plus instructions there. It actually comes in one of these bags as well. It's a pretty nice package, and yeah, we have a spare set of these propellers here, and maybe that is where this guy is going to make up on the performance, because these are the Dal Cyclone 3056, so high in pitch. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the speed is against this guy. As I say, this guy didn't come with these props. I added them, so you know, it is a pretty decent package, I have to say. And then we have got this camera at the front here, and this is really the only thing that I'm worried about, because I like this camera. It is the Fury B MS, which is clearly a Micro Swift copy, but it's been a little bit temperamental. Sometimes they've been great, and other times the footage has been shaky. So yeah, that's my only worry about this. But it is a CCD camera. It's got a 2.3mm lens on there. So, you know, if it's a good one, then yeah, I think this will be a fairly nice package. There's no camera protection though, I should say. But what I would say about where they have put the camera is, if you are interested in fitting something like the Cadex Turtle, then I think you could in this. I've put the receiver up here, it's got a little sticky pad, but I think you could stick it behind the camera or at the back here, and then I think there would be room for the Turtle camera to go on there. Also at the back we've got a buzzer, and that is connected up, so you can do a lost mod alarm. I did change the modes, but beeper was in there. It had horizon mode in there instead of angle, so I just switched that out. But everything else was set up how I have it, and as I say, LEDs in there. We've got indicators. That's nicely set up. We've got a silicone mat underneath as well, and we've got a nice quality battery strap. I really cannot complain about the build and sort of the decisions that they have made here. But if you are looking at, you know, the stack size to fit maybe a split mini, the stack size is shorter than the X140 Pro. In fact, I would say if you're looking at the split mini, go with the original X140 because it moves the camera further forward. I think you would struggle to fit a Turtle or a split in here because the camera sits far back, which means it's protected, but yeah, you can't stick those HD cams in this one. So with the KV of these motors and the size, I would go for a 850 milliamp 4S battery, and it's also using a XT30, whereas this guy was an XT60, so that might be a reason to persuade you one or the other. You know, I don't really have a preference because I have batteries with both, and with this battery it weighs under 250 grams. In fact, it's 246 grams, which is just perfect. Okay, so let's take a look at some DVR footage. It's a pretty gloomy day, and the first thing that I do is a speed run because I like to make sure that there's no people about when I do that. So let's see how it performs. So just 56 mile per hour on the speed run. So yeah, this one, it doesn't have a lot of power, but it doesn't draw the amp. So with this battery you get quite a decent flight time. So, you know, I would say the X140 Pro is still a better package, I think, but if you aren't after brute force and prefer flight time and you want a pretty easy setup, then actually this isn't bad. One thing I will say though is I think the camera has the shudder problem that I was talking about earlier, so that's something that GearBest really needs to look at, because, you know, I've seen quite a few of these cameras and I think the early ones didn't have the problem, and now I'm seeing shakes on the footage, and, you know, it's not from the tune. So the tune wasn't very good either, I have to say. Look, it flew out of the box, but it needed a lot of work. There was a lot of movement on the pitch, and yeah, it just needs completely looking at. Look at that shaking there. So that's the eye gain on the pitch and the roll. So yeah, but you know, what I want to do more and more of is just fly these things how they come out of the box without changing any settings, because I've talked about this before. I think it's really important now that getting these copters set up is as easy as possible, and I don't see it doing that. I see it getting more difficult. You know, checking out Betaflight version 3.5, and we've just got so many options now, and all of that should just work. And that's actually what I've enjoyed about going back to KISS, actually, because there's just none of those settings. It does it all for you, and I think Betaflight should be doing that. But yeah, I think version 3.2 this came with, so it doesn't have all of those new features to mess around with, but it definitely needs some work. Now, the FPV feed is really clear, so I like that. There's very little breakup with that antenna, and there's no noise coming from the ESCs whatsoever. But I do think that it could do with some more powerful motors for me. I think those 25 amp ESCs are a little bit wasted on these motors, and of course, you know, these are high pitched props as well, so we're still not getting the speed out of it. But it's not always about speed, and I think in the end you will get a decent experience buying into this copter. And you know, I was literally flying within 5 minutes, and it's quite rare that I've been able to do that lately, so you know, I gotta give it some credit for that. But yeah, it's a really long flight time, so I'll leave you with some flying, and if you are interested in this, I'll link it in the below. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.